Good morning or buenos días a todos. I hope you're having a great HPE Discover event. Yesterday was a great day for us. We talked to you about our strategy, the vision for the future. And today we have a fun event for you. I think something that, we want to share with you what we do in the motorsports. I believe that they are equally important. If you think about the culture, the values, and everything we do, they are equally important for the Formula One team. We talked about yesterday my 3 priorities in innovation, culture, and customers and partners. And I think the work we do in Formula One really applies the same way. And what we're going to do today is have a conversation both with Toto Wolf, the CEO and team director of the Mercedes-Benz Petronas team, and Lewis Hamilton, which is the world champion of the Formula One. And here is the trophy. As you saw yesterday in the video, we are proud of the work we are doing to advance Mercedes-AMG Petronas Motorsports, the edge to continue to compete and win. And we do that through the data, how we mine that data in ways that it gives them the advantage and the edge. Our role on the team is to process and analyze that data thoroughly and quickly as possible. It is our goal to free the team to do what they do best, which is to win. We help them win by starting at the factory floor, how they design their cars, to the garage, which is the edge, to the track, and to the winner's circle. So with that, let's get the conversation started. But before I bring on stage Toto Wolf, I would like to play this video. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Toto Wolf, the CEO and team director of Mercedes-Benz Formula One. Toto? Well, good morning, Toto. I know you had a long journey from Abu Dhabi. By the way, first of all, congratulations on finishing the season strong with another win. Let's give him a round of applause. And winning the Constructor Championship 5 times in a row. That's amazing.
Yeah, first of all, good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us. We just flown in from Abu Dhabi yesterday night after the last race weekend. It was a bit of an easier one because we won the championship the race weekend before, so we actually got to enjoy it first time this year. And then obviously joining you here conference and bringing you the Constructor Trophy. Feels very good.
Well, it's very special. Thank you for making the time to be with us and with our customers and partners. So what happened to you? You were celebrating?
No, I hurt my knee. I left my crutches outside because it doesn't look very dynamic if I come on crutches in here. But lots of partying and the ACL gave up in the knee.
All right, well, sometimes you have to know your limitations.
Yeah, one of
I know you like to push the limits, but you have to know your limitations.
Antonio and I keep teasing each other, but one of the very famous race drivers who was there at the party says, in your body only your brain works, the rest is a wreck. So.
Yeah. So Toto, before we bring Lewis on stage, can you talk a little bit about this season? I know this was not an easy season. You know, you and I talked throughout the months, right? It started not that great. Then after the break, it got better. And then the last few races struggled a little bit and then finished strong. So what's your take?
It was a difficult season straight from the get-go. Because first of all, how do you define a new objective if you just won your fourth consecutive double championship? And it's all about motivating and energizing your people. And so we need to set a target that was an ambitious target to match the Ferrari all-time record of 5 double championships. And we got out of the blocks okay-ish. We had a fast car, but we made a strategy mistake in the first race. That's why we need you guys and the data. And then it was oscillating. It was between us and Ferrari. Sometimes we had the better car, then it was them again. Fundamentally, I think what made the difference was Lewis. He was really great. He didn't make any mistakes. And at the end, we had a winning streak that started in Monza, and we kept going for 4 consecutive Grand Prix. And this is when we won the championship.
And I believe that Monza win turned the momentum.
The Monza win turned the momentum because I don't know how many of you follow Formula One, but Monza is the most important place for Ferrari. And we crushed them last year. We almost lapped them. And I think they had a target that they would come back to Monza in 2018 and crush us.
Yeah.
And they had a very fast car. They qualified on pole, but they made a mistake in not having the right guy on pole, because Sebastian Vettel was the one they should have pushed, and it was Kimi Raikkonen. And then these two guys didn't leave each other a lot of margin in the first couple of corners. And this is where Lewis put the car in. Sebastian spun out, and we won the race against all odds. And from then on, it looked like we were on a roll.
Yeah. So the last question before I bring Lewis. I mean, listen, winning 5 times consecutively is an amazing accomplishment. You and I talked about this before, right? How you keep that energy and that passion to continue to beat yourself? Because in the end, you're competing with yourself in some ways. But, you know, keeping the team motivated is a big challenge.
Yeah, it is a big challenge because you must, you're a public company, you report 4 times a year, and I often hear that the 4 times a year reporting and then trying to match the analyst's expectation is difficult to join up with a long-term strategy. So we report 21 times a year, and you're only as good as the last race. And add to the factor that we have a normal day-to-day job in the office from Monday to Friday, and on top of the 21 race weekends, that through the various time zones, we are racing on all continents. The race team we did about 250 hotel nights last year and 800 hours in an airplane. And on top of that, you need to perform and set the right objectives. And for me, it's really all about the objective setting at the beginning of the season. What do we want to achieve? What is the overall target for Mercedes and our partners? What is the target for the department? And what is our personal target? And what we do is we write it down. We write those targets down. Everybody receives this little leaflet, and that's in our bags, and we got to look at it, and that reminds you which targets
what
you've
is that?
set.
North Star, right? Where are you going?
Yeah, I strongly believe that writing things down somehow triggers something in our brain, so we almost develop a blueprint for the target. And there is I don't know if you know that there's a famous Harvard study. Actually, it's not completely clear whether it's a true study or not. But what they did is they followed MBA students over 10 years, and 90% of those students had no targets. 6% of them had targets but didn't write them down, and 4% had targets and wrote them down. So the 6% that had targets earned double the money after 10 years than the 90% that had no targets, and the 4% that wrote them down earned 10 times as much as everybody else combined. Right. So I strongly believe in this blueprinting, in this target setting, and this is where we spend a lot of time at the beginning of the year with the team in doing that.
That's amazing. So next, from his early days of go-karting as an 8-year-old, boy, is defined, I guess, his destiny, right, to be one of the greatest. He holds now records of all-time most career points, 3,018 points, the most wins across different circuits, 26 different circuits. The all-time most pole positions, 83, and the most Grand Slams in season, 3. He's set to break all remaining records inside and will become regarded, I think, one of the greatest racer of all time. I mean, 5 times consecutive, 5 times world champion of the Formula One. So why we don't give a big welcome to Lewis Hamilton, 2018 world champion. All right. How you doing, Lewis? How feels winning the last race of the season, but most important, the championship?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the warm welcome. No, it feels great. I'm glad that we've stopped racing, though, because it's a very long season. So 21 races with the intensity that we have is, you could maybe say a little bit too much, right? I think once we got to like race 18, once we were in Mexico, I was kind of ready to finish. But we still had races to do. We still had a championship to win. So it remained intense till Sunday.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we finished on a high, and it's just been an incredible, it's been the best year of my career, so really, really proud of it.
You know, Lewis, I mean, as you know, I follow you and I've been personally watching you in the garage and so forth. What I noticed this year about you is your focus. You were incredible focus. And Toto talk about the difference. He believes it was you in the end because, you know, there was so much parity in the car and setups and whatnot. But maybe you want to talk about this season, how you felt about it, because, you know, there were moments that was not that easy. But then when you came back from the break, I noticed a different attitude, the way you were approaching the race.
Yeah, I mean, well, every year, I mean, already last year we had an exceptional season, but the difficult thing is always to try to understand how do you raise the bar, how do you raise the game? But there's never a perfect season, there's never a perfect race. So we were talking actually on the flight here, and it's an actual fact that we are harder on ourselves when we have difficult races. It's very rare that we sit and look at a race that we've won and say, why did we win?
Yeah.
It's difficult to pinpoint because you're looking at all the good things that happen in a good race, for example, on Sunday. Yeah. But it's actually really important for us to understand why we won and what could we have done better. So for me this year as a racing driver, my target that I've written down in my book was to beat myself from the previous year. Yeah. So that's in all areas of fitness, focus, and my communication with the team, my engineers. How can I extract more from these guys? Because there's a lot of, there's so much technology. There's this car, as you see here, it's an incredible piece of machinery. And my goal as a driver at the beginning of the year is a brand new car. No one else has driven it. There's only 2 of us in this team that gets to drive it. Who can be the quickest to get on top of it, to utilize it, to maximize it, and extract more of its potential? Yeah. So that's really was my goal. And the first half of the season was decent, yeah, but not as strong as we'd hoped. But you're learning always something new about the tires, fuel efficiency, again, just about the different settings that you use. So you finish a race, you're like, oh, we would have done this if we could go back. So hindsight is always a great thing. But the second half of the season, you have this break for, 3 weeks? And then you come back, and you don't know how you're going to do. You hope that you come back stronger, but you have a bit of time to really analyze, reflect on the first part of the season, and then you come in attacking for that second. And I guess it's also about hunger, how much you want it.
So maybe we go back all the way to the beginning, right? So, Toto, I mean, you were in the motorsport racing, as a teenager and so forth, but you're also an entrepreneur. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that and how you got into the sport and ultimately why you want to be in this sport?
Yes, I tried to be a racing driver in the very early stage, but lacked everything.
Didn't work out, I guess.
No, it didn't work out. And when you look at the environment of the entrepreneurs or managers in motor racing, it's all the ones that have been humiliated as racing drivers that want to come back and be solid managers, and maybe that happened to me. But I left motor racing then because of a lack of funds also, and started a career in finance, and set up my own investment company in the late 80s, late 90s, with the internet and technology coming up. And then eventually came back as an amateur racing driver, did some rallying on maybe too little talent, too much ambition. But I enjoyed it, and then eventually merged the two worlds and invested in teams, in racing teams, and I bought a rally team. We became the largest rally team in Europe and the largest rally parts dealer in the world. Bought a touring car team, a sister company from AMG, and we're doing limited cars for AMG, ones that you buy. And we race in the German touring car series. And from then on, I bought into Formula One, into Williams, and then one day I got a call from Mercedes whether I would be interested in joining them up as a managing partner. And here I am. We have started together at Mercedes 6 years ago. We barely knew each other, and now we look back and we have to pinch ourselves all the time.
So maybe, Lucy, you want to talk about this relationship, right? Because now it's, what, 5 years, 6 years almost?
Yeah, it's our 6th year. It's my 6th year at Mercedes. So I was at McLaren previously for 6 years, and which was McLaren Mercedes, but then Mercedes bought their own team. And it's been an incredible journey. I was just actually watching the screen, Toto, because when we got out the car, Toto said that I had these glasses on. And I don't actually need these glasses. It's a part of the fashion look. You know.
It's about style.
But Toto...
Neither him needs the glasses. Oh, he needs the glasses.
Yeah, he didn't
I need it. I tell you, I can't see nothing without
Toto's like, oh, you're wearing the sophisticated glasses. So then he put them on.
No, I said you're wearing the intelligent glasses, so I grabbed my glasses.
Yeah, I noticed you were wearing it. But it's been incredible, you know. There's over 1,000 people in our team. How many now? There must be almost 1,800 people.
1,800.
So we have 2 factories. We have one which is building and developing the engine and the power unit, and then the other side that's building the car and the gearbox, for example.
Yeah.
And so there's a huge amount of people. We are just a chink in that chain, but Toto is the leader and the figurehead for all those people, and it's fascinating for me to see how the team has evolved since Toto's been there, since the day one that I was there, and from the aesthetics, from how the team looks, how it operates, from a lot of the people that were already in the team but are now in a better position and to utilize their potential, and it's really been an incredible experience working together. And you know, I don't have any desires to be a team manager. I couldn't do what Toto does. But it's taken a long time for Toto to admit that he couldn't do what I do. Because
I saw him beating his wife.
Yeah, no, he doesn't beat his wife.
Oh, no? All right.
He truly believes, he's still a racer at heart. So we've done some races on track, but his wife is a lot better than him.
Wow.
Which is really hard for him to... She's an ex-driver, and she was the first female to drive a Formula 1 car as well. So... That's something I've noticed in technology, and for example here, there's a lot of men. It's not as strong on the women front. Why is that?
We have a diversity problem here, and I believe we have an obligation to do a better job here. And I know today there's going to be, actually we have a session here, a dedicated spotlight session, where we're going to talk about women in technology. And we invited all the women to join us. And we need to take a leadership role. Awesome. It starts, early in college, what curriculums we want to put in place.
Fantastic.
And then grow the people throughout the ranks.
I think it's not just here, it's also, for example, in our sport as well. But we do have a lot of women that are coming in on the aerodynamics side, on the strategy side. So
I've been in one of your strategy reviews when I think it was in Montreal. And I forget her name. She was the one walking you and Valtteri. Here is how it's going to go. We're going to start. Rosie, okay. She said, we're going to start at this time, well, obviously 10 past 1, whatever is always 10 past 2. At that time, it's going to be this temperature. We believe in lap 1, there's going to be a safety car. Therefore, you're going to come in. It's amazing. I mean, she was unbelievable.
Well, as you know, strategy is everything for us. They do, I think, how many thousands and thousands of simulations throughout the weekend.
Yeah.
So Sunday morning we come into this meeting and they're saying this is what could happen in the race. If Ferrari stopped at this lap, this is what we would have to do. And it's really, really interesting. And sometimes you see it when Rosie gets up and talks and you're like, I don't trust this simulation. And you get in the race, and for example, the last race, they stopped me on lap 9?
No, 15, but very early.
Oh, was it 15, was it? Oh, because we had the safety car. That's how I remember it. But yeah, it felt far too early, and I had to do this long, long race on one set of tires, which I personally didn't believe was possible. But the strategists know, and from all the data that they've analyzed, which you guys have really helped us shortcut, because before it took 3 days to get that those simulations done, and now we get it within a day, which is huge.
And then let's talk about that, the data, right? So Toto, you and I talked about this early on in our early conversation about the power of the data and the unfair advantage that you guys need to get to continue to be at the top. And we talk about using new tools like machine learning and artificial intelligence. It's amazing to me when I sit with you in that, what do you call it, the fantasy island, and you look at the times and he's racing and Valtteri and you're just checking. It's amazing the amount of data you guys can process. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's a very exciting challenge actually, because we have two fundamental topics. One is that we have an interaction of technology with the human. The human drives the car, and an exceptional human drives the car. And sometimes he will perceive things that happen in the car differently to what the data say. So the trick we need to manage is somehow that the very bright engineer with his data, and I'm going to come to that in a second, needs to somehow find a way in compromise and in merge his thinking, database thinking, with the feeling that Lewis or Valtteri has in the car. And that might differ sometimes. And what we have achieved, we have this very bright guy who leads our trackside engineering department, who over the years understood how to collaborate with Lewis, and they have actually quite some entertaining, it's the wrong word, quite some challenging discussions with each other. No, Lewis would say, you're wrong, this is what the car does. And he says, well, I can't see it in the data. But they have been working so well with each other that we call it tough love, because we have this joint objective of wanting to win, so we can be tough with each other, because there is no agenda on the table,
right.
and there is no bad feelings about arguing with each other, because it's the same objective, make the car faster. So that is the first trick we need to achieve. How do you merge the human's feeling and perceptions with the data? Right. And the second one is that we have these exceptional engineers that have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience, and we merge all that with the simulations we get and obviously the tools you have provided to us. But we mustn't lose the understanding, how do you say, the forest of the tree? No,
yeah, trees from the forest.
Trees from the forest. We have these masses of information that we need to digest over a very short period, 48 hours, in order to make decisions and put it on the car. And sometimes it's not trivial to dissect the information and come to the right solution. And this is where we need the machine. We need the machine to interact with the very clever engineer and his experience and come to the right decision in a very short time.
Yeah. So that brings me to the topic of innovation, right? So is innovation helping you be a better driver?
Oh, definitely. As you said, as I was saying earlier, it's all about understanding the technology you have and utilizing it. So that my goal at the beginning of the year is always to try to see if I can get ahead of the opposition and stay ahead. But the technology is constantly evolving throughout the year. And as Toto was just mentioning, it's about, there's all this data that the engineers are studying and analyzing. And my job, not only to drive, is to bring the human factor to it, and also remind the engineers about the human factor. So I'm always challenging them, because they'll say the data says this or the computer says this, and I'll be up, yeah, but this from past experience, and I've been racing a long, long time now, so it does help. So it's just trying to make sure you get that balance, and that's something that takes time to find the right balance there. But we've got some incredible people. They're so intelligent in the team. But also on my side, for example, when I come in from a qualifying lap, I have a screen, and on my screen I can choose what information I have. And studying the data, for example, an overlay, and the speed at which they download the car to then putting it up on the screen, so I can quickly have literally 40 seconds to quickly analyze where I'm losing time, where I can go quicker, and then I go back out for my next qualifying lap. So the speed of how we process data is it always needs to be moving forwards. It needs to evolve, and that's probably why our relationship works so well, because innovation is key to our success, and that's why we exist, to innovate and raise the bar, as I said.
So Toto, you and I, when we started early in the conversation, we talked about what HPE can do for you. I mean, he's obviously talking about what we brought to you, but how do you think about our relationship?
For us, and probably in many industries, with the digitalization, the environment is changing. The machine learning, artificial intelligence, and robots are going to take over a lot of the work that takes a long time to process. And Luis has given an example of the interaction that is important for him. The car is being pushed into the garage, and he needs the information as quickly as possible to overlay his lines with the other car to see where he can improve or not, and then have a discussion with his data engineer. But there's so many areas in a Formula One team where we need the speed of data. We need to process the information in the right way. Strategy, we talked. We have this bright team of strategists that have 10,000 simulations in the background, but at the end, it's a human that takes the decision. And I'd like to steer it away a little bit from the human. I'd like to have more tools from you guys with faster processing ability, giving us more suggestions and proposal. And then even though the man on the pit wall needs to take the final decision and add the common sense, because racing is still common sense. It's humans racing each other, not robots. Add the common sense. I think this is what we need to achieve, and this is where we can gain, like you and I defined, the unfair advantage to the other teams, that we are ramping up our artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities faster than all the other teams.
So if you think about 2019 and beyond, now there's a new set of regulations coming on, which is going to change quite dramatically, the setup, and I think it's going to level up a little bit, the competition, right?
Yeah, we hope not.
Well, that's why we're working ahead, to keep that edge for you guys.
Yeah, the aim was to, at the moment, it's very difficult for the cars to follow, and Luis can say more about that, but you can't come any close. You lose downforce, the tire loses grip, and therefore the overtaking is really bad. And when you look at some of the junior classes with less aerodynamic, F2, for example, there's some great racing there. Actually, they are able to come close. And so the aim was to take away a little bit of the aero, direct the airflow not around the car, so you create a big hole behind your car, and that's bad, but over the car. But they fight 2,000 aerodynamicists in all the teams, and I think we have found solutions how we can get the air again around the car. It's not going to change an awful lot.
I always try to explain, when people look at these cars, I mean, it looks obviously pretty unique, but you can't see the air particles flying around this car. It's all about aerodynamics is a massive part of what we do, and how they analyze the data from the wind tunnel and all the simulations that they do. But all these different, from where you see IWC at the front, from the front wing all the way to the rear of the car, it's how the air flows through around the car and sucks the car to the ground. So they say it like 80 miles an hour. We can put this car on the ceiling upside down and it will stay there. Right. So in opposite to what a plane would have, which is lift, we are basically a plane upside down. So the faster you go, the more it pushes and suck to the floor. Right. And so that's why we can take the corners as quick as we can.
Especially the Spa, when you turn
Yeah, exactly. So the more efficient we get that, the more drag we reduce as well, so we can keep our straight speeds. The more efficient we are and utilize it. But when you get behind another car, you lose at least a large percentage of that airflow because the car in front is blocking it. Yeah. So then it comes down more to mechanical grip and from the tires, and again, that's an area we're constantly trying to improve.
That has been the biggest challenge this year, right? The tires, you would say?
The tires, yeah, they're pretty much impossible to fully understand. We've done the whole season.
Although he says you can feel every tire. Is that right?
I wouldn't say that I can feel, well, yeah, you can. because obviously we're doing corners, left and right corners, so it's not like, I guess, like NASCAR where you're constantly going one
Turning left.
direction.
You just turn it left.
Yeah, it's really, really strange, and it's a constant, you're constantly learning something new. Every time you go out, how you bring the tire in, it's all about temperatures. They heat the tires to 110 degrees, 100 degrees. And by the time you get to the end of the pit lane, they've already dropped down to 80 degrees.
Yeah.
And then it's how you've got to decide how much you push on the outlap as to not use too much of the rubber, but then you need to get the temperature to get them working.
Right.
And there's a real small window within 10 degrees, which they either they overheat or they switch off, they're cold. So if you're below that window, you just have no grip and you struggle. And if you get in the window too early, then by the third sector of the lap, they're overheating. So it's really trying to find a balance so that they're still with you at the end of the lap, but with you at the beginning of the lap. So that's a science that we're constantly trying to develop and understand, because that's a real unknown area.
So Toto, yesterday I shared the vision of the enterprise of the future, which I think is perfectly matching what you guys do. I believe the enterprise future is edge-centric, cloud-enabled, and data-driven. You have a perfect example of an edge-centric, cloud-enabled, data-driven. The edge for you is the garage, is the track side. Your cloud is sitting at the factory, and obviously it's all about the data. So how do you think about running this operation? We work obviously with Matt Harris and the team, but bringing that operation to life is a big challenge for you guys.
It's a big challenge because, as you say, the edge, we are on the field, we are at the war place.
Yeah.
And we are limited with resource there. We are limited by the amount of people we can take. And we need to come to conclusions quickly. So back at base, we need an efficient structure that manages all the information that flow from the track back into the office to help in the analysis. We are having a simulator driver in the simulator. We are looking at various simulations based on the feedback that the drivers give. And then obviously it's all about the base, the capability that we are creating with Matt Harris and his team and you guys. To create the clusters, to create the capacity and the capability in order for us to deliver data more efficiently, faster, with more clarity. And that's the trick, and we hope together with you guys to be at the very forefront in Formula One.
Yeah. I know you're going to have the time to walk through later on. You're going to see all the technology sitting on that floor. And it's amazing what we can do for you, within the regulations, obviously. Again, it's extracting that insight from the data faster so you can give him the information that he needs so he can process real time and make his own decisions with the team. But Lewis, for you is that, you have been now 5-time world champion. How do you keep that motivation? Because now you have to do it again.
I know. I'm looking forward to this break, not having to think about competing and, because the season is so long. You start training already in January, and you already start testing in February, and then the first race is in March, and it is a long season to really keep your mind in and delivering each weekend. Each weekend there's a lot of pressure because there's obviously all our partners, then there's all those people back at the factory who are depending on me to put their work to good use, and every decision that I make out there impacts those guys. And so that's it. But then there's the added pressure of which is even bigger, the pressure of myself wanting to excel, to live to. I guess people say, "What is your deepest fear?" I think fear is not living to your capacity, not being able to extract or deliver what you can do. And so really, but honestly, it's quite easy for me having the motivation. Next year, it's a completely new car. It's not like if it was the same car, for example, when you're doing going through the same cycle,
right,
same process, it would be, I guess at some stage it could get tedious. Right. But it's a new car, it's a new platform, it's a new challenge. There's drivers in different cars. There's, you've got the Red Bulls who are really trying to come out as strong. You've got young Max Verstappen who wants to steal a world championship. You've got now Charles Leclerc, who's now in Ferrari, right, who's going to want to impress next year. So, and these guys are all much young. I'm the third oldest driver now in Formula One. So, which is ridiculous because I'm only 33. But these guys, you know, they're all in their young teens now. So, so now how do I remain relevant? How do I remain fitter than all these guys? How do I remain mentally more focused and more diligent than all these other guys? That's my super focus, to stay ahead of them. They might be young and, you know, what's the word?
You have experience.
I've got the experience, fortunately. I think that helps. But I think it's really how you dissect your year. So, you know, this next month, I'm going to sit down and try and figure out where I can be better. I asked for my team to send me an email from several different departments. Like, ask them, you know, be blunt. They don't even need to tell me who the email's from, but just tell me the things that you feel I can improve on. If there's been a certain experience this year you felt that could be better, or something I've said that's swayed the energy within the team, whatever it may be, because I'm looking to be the all-time great, and that means winning in all areas. So
I personally believe, now getting to know you for the last year or so, you will be the greatest. I have no doubt about it, because you have an incredible focus, passion. The will to win is with you all the time. And as long as we and him, you know, as a partner, can deliver you the platform, I think you can do it again and again.
yeah, the pressure's on you guys right now. Dude, you gotta make sure they do their job. You can't be sleeping.
I'll remind you at the start of the first race in Melbourne when the pressure is back on you. You turn to deliver now.
You know that I perform well under pressure, so it's not a problem.
We like it too, Antonio.
Yeah, okay, good. So let's talk about next season, because now you have a new car. And you said, I think you said in the video, you said it to me, that every year you have to shave 2 seconds out of that performance, right? So how you feel about next year? Because I remember being there a few months at the factory and saw kind of the glimpse of the new car is different.
Yeah, because the rules have been changed. Normally the aerodynamic, the downforce should be less, but the rumors you hear from the paddock is that people have been able to recuperate lots of that. So there is a tremendous development race that is happening as we speak in finding downforce, reducing drag, and of course the engine is a very important part,
right,
and adding more horsepower to the engine. So we are setting ourselves really ambitious targets. We have actually increased the targets 6 weeks ago because we've heard some rumors that others were doing well. So the slope, we increased the final point. That is the first race where we think we need to be in absolute lap time. And we're still on slope. We have had some good weeks in the wind tunnel. We've had a little bit of a setback on the engine side, where we believed the new concept would deliver a little bit more, but these guys are very ambitious, like all of us, and so I'm optimistic. But you will never know. We will know when the first qualifying session gets underway in Melbourne. This is the moment where everybody shows their cards.
You know, we only have 3 engines for the year.
Yeah, I know.
So that's a lot of races to cover the distance, where you need maximum power for qualifying, but then you need to have the reliability without losing power. So there's a lot of pressure on those guys. You know, you lose one race or miss one race, that's 25 points. So reliability is everything. You know, it's really a very, very big part of the performance package. And it's kind of crazy when you see all these guys, the 1,800 people that we have working on the car. Right now, all 1,800 are focused on next year's car, the development, how the car comes together. And in January, I think during the year, I think, was it, what part of the year? It's like April, he starts to tail some of those individuals off onto the next year's project. So through the year, that kind of seesaw, which is fully loaded on the current car in the season, then tails off.
To the next.
So once you get to kind of October, the whole team's already focused on the next year, and it's making sure you start at the right time. You don't want to be a month later than the other team, or if you can, you want to be earliest, but you also want to win the current championship. So the development race is so cool to watch. And when I go to the factory every week, you go into the wind tunnel, and they're constantly changing these things. The wind tunnel's running 24/7, and they're taking all these pieces off, testing and making sure the cars, you know, the flow structures on the car are improving. And then in January, when I get to the factory and see the car come together, you see these pieces of this puzzle come together from different departments, and they fit together perfectly. And it's more streamlined, more efficient than you've ever, you know, than the previous year. It's like a piece of art. And you know, there's only 2 of us that get to go and drive it. So
it's amazing.
It is a bit worrying when you first go out, because You're hoping that the brake's going to work. You hope the wheels are not going to fall off, which you have to trust that that's not going to be the case. But you don't want to crash the car because there's only one of that car. There's no extra pieces.
That's right.
So there's a lot of pressure.
In our first ever test with Lewis, when I started, we had a brake failure. And
It was horrible.
he ended up in the wall. It was pretty, we didn't have any radio communication, and or it was, what we heard sounded really bad. And he was in a Mercedes, just switching to our teams, and he was in the mall because after a long straight, the brake failed. So this is something that must never happen again.
That was, yeah, the first day of driving for this team, I was super pumped. I was excited. Get down the straight. I'm doing 200 miles an hour. I hit the brakes, and I think only the front brakes worked. The rear brakes stopped, I think, and straight into the wall.
That's not good.
Very painful, but that was how our relationship started. But fortunately,
That's okay.
fortunately, I haven't had. Actually, we did have a brake failure, but it wasn't. It was in Germany a couple of years later. But that's something you got to put right out of your mind.
You talk about the wind tunnel. So we are powering the wind tunnel. So how do you think about the technology part of this? And then most importantly, what technology you think you're using will cascade to other industries in the Formula One? Now you have seen it for many, many years.
The wind tunnel is one of the most important parts because the downforce that we're able to achieve there is crucial. Again, it comes back to the same concept of reliable data, extracting the right data for analysis and processing it in the fastest way. And in terms of the technology that we translate into road cars, that is happening all the time. A modern car today, when it has power-assisted steering, ABS, slip control, the pedals for the gear shift, all that has been developed in Formula One, and there's much more technology that is invisible on the cooling side, for example. So we are the fastest lab in the world. What we design and manufacture for a prototype car, for just 2 cars in the world, is going to find its way into road cars, and all of us are going to drive these technologies in 10 or 15 years. Maybe not all of us, maybe the robot is going to drive us, but it's going to be in the car.
For example, hybrid technology.
Yep.
That's something I'm really proud of what I see today in cars, because I was at the forefront of that within Formula One. We started in 2009 with the hybrid technology, with the Curve system, that battery pack that we use today that gives you an extra 200 brake horsepower, whatever it is, which you see now in the Teslas and in all the cars around the world that are hybrid. We started working on that and kind of leading that technology. So it's quite cool to be a part of that and see it in the road. I don't think people really notice it's us that's been a part of it, but it's cool.
Maybe the last question for each of you. So, Lewis, if you think about the next 3 years and what legacy you want to leave, how you want to be remembered?
Well, I don't really think too much about how I want to be remembered, because that either means I've retired or I'm dead, one of the two. And
maybe retired.
I don't really like to think too much about retirement.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I started in 2007 in Formula One. And it's crazy to think how fast it's gone. I know that's something we all say in life, you know, where the last 5 years have gone. But I'm now going into my 7th year with the team. And I feel like I'm still not at my best, but I'm just on the way there. So I've still got lots of work to do. But we've just signed for another 2 years. So 19 and 20 are going to be interesting. I mean, my goal is to make sure that Ferrari don't win a championship within those 2 years, or Red Bull. So,
all right. He has the right mindset.
And then I don't really know. I think in 2021 the rules change a lot. Formula One is going through a bit of a dynamic shift, I think, with the new management, and I think the team's agreement, which Toto is going to be working hard on, comes to a point at which they have to renegotiate. So I'm keeping my ears as close to the ground about the future. And I don't really know what is particularly beyond Formula One, but a lot of sportsmen and women, when they stop competing, they've done it their whole lives. I've been racing since I was 8. So all my focus has been on this. So in honesty, in my part-time role outside of Formula One, I'm trying to kind of figure out what else I want to do, what else I want to get involved in. Naturally, it's super easy for me to sit and come to all the Grand Prix after I'm racing, and even be the number 2 to Toto perhaps, because I've been racing it for years. I know it just as well as anyone else. But I'm more intrigued to learn something new. You know, who knows? Maybe I'll come and work with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
You know,
We have a job for you here.
this is great. Great.
Oh, great.
You know,
we can bring you into the computing environment and
love it. Well, I used to do IT actually before. My dad started was into IT and worked for British Rail, and he then started his own company with IT and network support. So when I was 18, I went to London and started working for him. And I'd go around to all the different corporate companies, and I'd go into their mainframe and do all these test runs on their computers. And,
Perfect.
And
we have a job for you here.
Yeah, so good.
What is LMA? What is LMA? Let's sign it now.
I'm not cheap. I'm not cheap, just so you know. But
yeah, I know that. Well, we'll have him to sponsor us, so I can afford you. So, Toto, the last question for you. I mean, one of the key things we, as a leader of companies, different scale, obviously, is all about leadership and culture. Can you talk a little bit about leadership and culture at Mercedes-Benz, the Formula One team? What is your philosophy?
For me, culture is like the immune system of a company. It is only visible when things go wrong. And for us, it's very much about trust, loyalty, honesty, brutal transparency, empowerment, and development of the individual. And that is things that you can write on a PowerPoint chart and you can say, this is how we want to be. But only when it gets tough, you really find out whether you live true, whether you're true to your values. And we have these tough moments where we fail, but because we remind ourselves that these are our values, we are able to apply brutal honesty and brutal transparency, and therefore rise and learn from our mistakes. And I think that is at the core of our values. And in terms of leadership, it's very easy. I read a sentence that for me sums it all up. Leadership is not about you, leadership is about them. It is our duty to develop the people that work with us in the best possible way. I cannot design an aerodynamic surface, but I know everything about the guy who can. And I'm going to provide a framework and an environment for him to succeed. And we're all different. We are all motivated by different factors. I believe in the incentive superpower. And it's not always as trivial as money. That can be one of the incentives. But as times are changing, people become different and are triggered by different objectives and motivations. And this is what we need to filter out. What drives Lewis as one of the most important pillars in the team? What framework do I need to provide so Lewis is able to perform at his best? And Lewis is completely different to maybe my head of aero, who's a guy I really enjoy working with. And that's why we are flexible in the way we think about the individuals, about the stars in the team that need to work together and come together as a team.
Yeah. And I believe that's why you guys are so successful. You can see the chemistry, the culture, the way you guys live, the way you guys support each other. And I got to know your team pretty deeply across all the departments, in the marketing side, in the factory side. And it's very, very special. And I think that's the formula for success, right? When you have a group of people that have a clear mission about the future, that they're empowered to do what is the right thing to do, and then the passion to win. You know, I always said, if you're not going to win, pick a fight. At least you have some fun with it. But you guys are having fun.
Yeah, we are actually quite similar in the way we're structured. We love when we have a fight on our hands and when we need to solve problems. And obviously, it doesn't feel good at the time, but it keeps us motivated and busy, challenges us. We are not into free time and into not doing anything. And I can just think of myself when the times are tough and we had these weekends is where I feel the best, where I feel the most energized and the most keen in meeting my own expectation, meeting Lewis's expectation and the team's expectation, meeting your expectation, and that really drives me.
So give us, what is the biggest challenge you have and how we can help you?
I have many big challenges, but I'm just thinking about the ones you can help me. As I said, we are in a transformative situation at the moment, and we need to be able to merge the really clever guys that are freestyling at the moment based on their knowledge and what they are capable in storing up here with the data that you are able to filter for us, that you're able to to provide to us, filter for us, and then supply to us in order that this individual has a more educated, possibilities for his decision.
Yeah.
We need faster technology solutions.
That's easy. We have it right there. So
No,
can
we
show it to you.
need the next level. The stuff
We,
that
we
you
have
can't
an
get on the floor.
NDA. There is a section on the NDA that actually only people who sign a specific piece of paper, they can go in it.
That's
we
what
can
we
take
need.
you there. We can
Definitely.
take you there.
But you know, Antonio, even with the trivial thing, I remember Luis saying 2 or 3 races ago, guys, I need the data quicker on my screen in the garage, so he's going to challenge you next year on that one.
Yeah, wow. You know, I actually know how to push the buttons now. I've been there a few times. And it's kind of the same thing. You need new visualization tools, for sure.
I need to take you in the car so you know what I'm talking about. And then I feel like,
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Do you have a 2-seater?
no, but you were talking about the cars that, you know,
Yeah.
let's go
okay.
to Laguna and let me take you
Laguna.
around.
Yeah. Let's do
I'll
it.
go with you first and
Yeah.
see how you drive.
Okay.
And then,
I'm a little bit reckless, but that's
oh,
okay.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, it's okay. I'm a good passenger.
Actually, we have something interesting. This is no joke. Actually, it's true. It's not about cheating. Our HP Labs developed for a friend of mine a specific device that we put on the engine with a satellite. When you make a specific turn, we can open up the engine in a specific turn, so go faster. And I have that piece of technology.
But it's not illegal.
Not illegal, because we're not competing legally, so it doesn't matter. You're just competing amongst ourselves. You want to try that piece of
You make
technology?
him thinking already.
You want to try that piece of technology?
I definitely want to look into it right now. We always need more power.
Yeah, we can give you power, the exact power at each turn. We can put it out on 911 easily.
Why have you not given us that technology yet?
Because it's regulated what you guys do, so I can't give it to you. But maybe next time. Well, listen, it has been super fun to have you guys here. I mean, listen, I'm incredibly proud to work with you. And the reason is because, A, you are winners. Second is because you push the limits of innovation. And third, because you are fun to work with. So thank you very much for being with us today. Congratulations on a fantastic season, both constructorship and driver championship. You know, I know you guys can do it again and again, and we will be along the way with you to give you the tools and the unfair advantage you need. So congratulations, guys.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you very much.